can't break that rhythm in that space. There isn't a rationality. There isn't like there's no contest. Everything's about the high. Everything's about staying up. Everything is about, you know what I mean? Like you see someone doing something and people will completely ignore it because they don't want to leave their bubble of chemically induced euphoria. Mm-hmm. So after a while, I was looking around thinking, oh, hold on, I'm in a place where there's no hierarchy. There's no one regulating this. There's no authority watching us. We're completely unsupervised. Then I realized, oh, what kind of people thrive in these environments? Mm-hmm. Then I really started to pay attention about the kind of people that I was spending time with, and
or who sets them up and what kind of energy,
what is
living off of that energy that yes. you are generating by way of the dance and the attention. Yeah. And
well, we think we're going in there, we thought, right? You think you're going in there to be liberated. After a while, it clicked. I'm a customer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having my desire for true individuality milked out of me. Because, I mean, I'm a bit weird, right? But I'm weird I'm weird even in those spaces. So I'd say things to people and they'd kind of freeze up. Because it'd be like, oh, you know, you're messing with my kundalini or whatever the hell they were, you know, like.
Well, you want to I've changed the image now. We've got the this is from you and me talking at some point, and we have the Disney fireworks going on and the telegram little lightning thing, where it's this mind palace that we're living in with the backdrop of the Detroit Shrine. Which the photo I took when I was there for Mother's confirmation. So you mm-hmm. have this, which it's like this overlay of the make-believe ritual.
Yes.
And it needs to be. I use this photo because it says to me. I mean, I try to in my media. I've got different backgrounds on my different Telegram devices. So this one's on my phone, right? And I try to have pictures on the background of my devices that remind me of the space that I'm supposed to be going into, because all of these, I mean, you were talking about the rave, but the digital world, the imaginative make-believe Disney world, all of these media want to draw us into this mind palace fantasy version of connection.
Yeah. Well, it's why corporations abuse youth, because they're pirating. They always pirate youth culture.
Right.
I forget, it was like 20, 25 years. I don't know how long ago. It was a while ago. I caught a documentary. It was called The Merchants of Cool. That name always stuck with me, because that's exactly what they do. They're merchants of cool. So they you know, these massive corporations will run around stealing youth cultures that grow up organically as a kind of reflection of the desire for folk identity that you know, pops up all over the world, and then they repackage it and it gets pumped out in you know, corporate form. So what started as something that we thought was very organic, you know, raver kids and the whole aesthetic behind it. I mean, we had entire cottage industries which revolved around these parties. People ran businesses. They worked full time on fashion design. I mean, that's how huge it was. Like record stores, clothing, hair. I mean, like it was huge. Everything was done specifically just to cater to these parties. It became, you know, the liturgy that creates the economy.
Well, I mean, there's a very potentially joyous element here is that it drew art out of all
Yeah.
of you.
Oh yeah,
And I think
but that's what we were hungry for.
And the sort of the feeling of the folk culture. I mean, back in college, I learned how to make the bead earrings that the native women or artists were making. It's like they're really easy to make. You get all the seed beads, which are actually European, those glass beads, right? But you know, making our costumes, making our decorations, the hippie culture, but the do-it-yourself paint work on everything, obviously. So you're drawn to make art. The ritual is drawing you out for art, and then the predators come in. We need a Scar and hyenas picture now.
It's been a hyena kind of week, isn't it? But that's it. I mean, it's this desire for beauty, truth, beauty, goodness. That was our version of peace, love, unity, and respect. We were little plur kids running around in fluffy neon clothing, and you don't think about the things that, like the machinery that goes on behind this, because obviously once drugs are involved, you've got drug trade. But you don't think about it at the time. You just think, oh yeah, we'll have fun. But this space, where everyone's supposed to be highly individuated, it's not. After a while, you realize, okay, so everyone's been pulled together. It's a kind of chemically induced calm, then there's a chemically induced euphoria, whatever. But it's a kind of synthetic tribalism.
Yeah.
And
well, I'm thinking certainly people who've gone to parties like this will have a feeling of tribal identity with the people that they've gone to those. I mean, I had I had family members who followed the Grateful Dead around. Right? The bands create senses of community and sense of belonging, and I'd say yes, out of that. I mean, I started tonight talking about my friend's brother who got to sing with Roger Waters, right? And that I think that the corporate stuff is definitely playing off of that, because then they'll sell you all of the branded, gear, the clothes, the music, anything that gets branded that is a longing for a tribal identity, which has been, as these things get corrupted and commercialized, are back to our vending machine people. But there's a not a purity, that makes it sound wrong, but there's a deep desire for this sort of, I mean, obviously it's ancient tribal religion with drums and music and dancing and fire and some that gets us somewhere as human beings. This sounds banal, but it's true. And if you've been at one of these, if you've been at some kind of party like this, you cannot not feel it. And it doesn't take that not many drugs or I mean, people get drunk or they get high or something like that. But it's as much the being with the group and the music and the movement as it is any other help that you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, I've done parties sober because I'm, like a solar powered person. But if you're into something enough, like if I've gone somewhere where I've loved the music enough, it's enough. I can dance for 10 hours straight without any chemical assistance, based on that ethereal energy that comes out of the crowd. So it's real. It's a very powerful kind of magic. And like what you were saying before regarding COVID, I think this is why I've managed to deal with it the way I have. Because I've already been in environments where people have been how shall I phrase this?
Swept up.
Raptured into irrationality. Yeah. So when everyone was around me, running and freaking out and screaming in some cases. I mean, I haven't talked about it much, but uh, Australians became quite aggressive in the last 2 years. Uh, Sometimes I would see people's pupils dilating open and shut. They looked like they were the kind of people that I was hanging out in warehouses with.
Yeah. They looked high
the
from
they were
from
high.
the
Fear.
Yeah, wow.
It was fear. They were high on fear, and had kind of reached a psychosis. I mean, people always talked about mass formation psychosis, but it was real. The pupils dilating in and out, the kind of fidgety, tweaky, nervous, hyper responsive snappiness that everyone was manifesting. I mean, I could put them in neon clothing and put some bass music on, and it's like, okay, we're right back in 2001. Like, no difference. But just like it was back then, people overlook horror when they're in these frames of mind.
Yeah.
So, kind of leads us to who would want to put us in these frames of mind, I guess.
Indeed. Who or what? So the chat the chat is encouraging. Reproba says, I knew she was a hippie. I sure hope you did. Who else goes to Ren fairs in costume? I mean, come on. This gives Matthias Desmet, in his descriptions of that mass formation psychosis, has never given a mechanism, right? He does talk about the mechanisms of, like, free floating anxiety and stuff like that, but this it's like the religious ritual element of, in the UK, like clapping together on the particular day, the particular time of day for everything. I mean, I've always thought that the mask wearing, the costuming, and it's probably, oxygen deprivation and stuff like that, so you get kind of high off of it. But the sort of what you're describing right now is the first time I've had a real sense of the physical, spiritual psychosis that people have been in is a kind of, it's a rave-like fear induction.
I mean,
I buy that.
Would have said ancient people would have just said they're possessed straight up. Christians would say it's a spiritual possession. And I think it was.
I think it was a spiritual possession, and I think it's Seinfeld had a little joke about this, or at least there's a meme. I'm assuming that in that episode where Jerry is saying to Kramer, "What's going on in there?"
Oh, you've got that one on. Oh,
I love this. I have to do this to her because she can't see the slides when I'm changing the OBS. OBS is not like Zoom. Share screen is not a thing. It's so Kramer comes out and says it's the living light of the Godhead, Jerry. But I think what is going on in that episode for real, right? Some kind of party or something like that. It's like, are they raving behind the door? I'm going to assume that is, because I don't remember what's in the episode. And that you and I have been talking about how there's got to be something else behind the energy that the rave is tapping into. What is it, right? What are we actually seeking in this rave? Please, let's
Can I get African?
Oh, okay. Go there.
It's shamanism.
Oh yeah, straight up.
It's shamanism. Yeah. It's an organized system of shamanism.